You know, personal development is not that exciting. What I show is about 1 to 2% of the actual process because, quite frankly, the rest is boring. But my life is not a highlight reel by any means, so I'm going to show you what doesn't normally make the cut. This is my boring life. I'm already being bombarded about how much I have to get done today. You might not have seen it, but in the last video, I show how I have certain areas I'm trying to grow in, which basically means I have a list of behaviors I try to do each day. My boring improvements, I like to call them. It wouldn't be so bad if I wasn't updating everybody in my newsletter about my progress each week. I've only been awake 30 minutes and my brain is already ridiculing me for not making the most of my time. After all, I could be listening to an audiobook while making breakfast and checking that off the list. But I usually decide a slow, quiet morning is more important. After breakfast, I check off the first of my list of daily behaviors: devotions. I find habits like this incredibly hard to achieve. While I know they're important, they don't feel important. So I always feel as though I'm wasting my time or should be doing something more urgent. I wrap up the rest of my morning routine and get ready to start work. I console my mind by planning out my day, otherwise I will bounce all over the place. Today is one of the days I'm not working my 9-to-5 job, so I need to get as much done today as possible. Between now and lunch, I have 2 one-hour writing sessions, which isn't nearly as cool as it seems. You'd think it would go something like this. But actually, it's a little more like this. Is that how you spell spectacular? I should make some tea. Wait, I just had some tea. Why don't I go to the coffee shop? Then I'd be having more fun. The only way I found to keep my butt in the chair is to use the duration framework, as I've talked about before. Something about deciding on how much time to focus for and having a timer really makes a big difference. It tricks my brain, making it easier to commit to a specific amount of time. It's most important for the first 10 minutes or so. After that, the distractions somewhat fade away. Another reason I find this so helpful is it keeps me from bouncing to other tasks. Since most of my work is on my laptop, I find myself getting spread too thin. A timer reminds me that I'm focusing on one task during this time. Alrighty. I usually do the next 2 boring improvements, as I call them, over lunch. And how I do that is while I'm making lunch, I listen to an audiobook for about 30 minutes or so, and then after that, I use active recall to describe back what I learned and to solidify that in my memory so that I don't forget it. If you're curious how to do that, by the way, I made a whole video on it. It's fascinating. Cal Newport talks about it. It's really interesting how you can almost build a photographic memory. It's really cool. But this illuminates 2 of potentially the most difficult parts of personal development and growing as a person. And the first one is, if I find something that I decide I want to add into my life, nothing else changes. I still have all the work that I have to do, but now I have to figure out when and where to add in this new behavior. And that's what makes lasting change so difficult, because anybody can move around their schedule and their time priorities for a week or 2. But to make that a part of you, is really difficult. And if you don't believe me, try to do this. Add something into your day for 10 minutes and try to do it every day for a month. It is unbelievably difficult. Anyway, I'm getting distracted, sorry. And the second part that honestly I think is the most difficult part of building an exceptional life is the ability to perform boring tasks consistently for long periods of time. For me, that is the absolute hardest part of this whole process. And that's why this video is so important. Because when people hide the boring, hard part of growth and change, it makes it so much more difficult for others because it changes the expectation. Because now if you are going to model something, your expectation of what that looks like is wrong. And that just makes it so much more difficult. I want to pull back the curtain a little bit and just kind of open up a little bit of a window into just how life actually looks. The ordinary, the mundane is so important. Most of learning and growing as a person is not dedicated time. It happens during the in-between stages. For example, over lunch, I effectively listened to 30 minutes of a book, then committed the important facts to memory. If you wait for a time when you're not busy or nothing else needs to be done, you'll be waiting a long time. The rest of my afternoon is spent working, but here again, I break each task into focus sessions of 45 minutes to an hour. I spend my time doing one of three things, neither of which are overly interesting, but each is incredibly necessary. Between each focus session, I take a bit of a break and try to do something useful like read or laying face down on the floor contemplating my life choices. I try to model a few things while going about a day like this. First, progress isn't linear, meaning that often when it feels like we aren't getting anywhere, it's because we haven't given it time to grow. The second thing I try to live out is a truth that came from Matthew Dix. He said, progress should be ordinary and the results extraordinary. It's good to be reminded of this fact, especially when I find myself wishing I had someone else's life. It keeps me grounded. It keeps me patient. Behind every amazing result is loads of complex work that we often don't see. But most of us just fall in love with the image of the result and don't want to go through the work to get there. The last and most important aspect of my day, I focus on what I call action required, meaning without action, a dream will always remain a dream. Information is a dime a dozen, so instead of consuming more, I try to take action on what I already know. Around 5 p.m., I decide to indulge myself in the stereotypical writer's life and go work somewhere cool. All the cool coffee shops are closed, but I walk to the park close by, watch the sunset, and finished my day working on a writing project. I'm tired. I've been sitting and staring at a computer screen all day, trying to create new ideas. I come home and decide to whip up an incredibly healthy meal of mac and cheese. In case you're wondering, there are a few more things I need to do on my boring list of improvements, except I just do not want to do them. I think it's, let me check. I still have Spanish studying and journaling, which is about as exciting as watching paint dry. And it's tough because, you know, I feel like I'm wasting my time. Like I said, I only have like 2 hours before I need to go to bed. And to spend that doing something I just really don't enjoy feels like a waste of time, especially when there's so much more creative work that I could do. And creative work that's really important, you know, like that will actually have a significant effect. I'm still gonna try to do them, obviously, but I'm just trying to illustrate an honest look at improvement, you know, like I'm trying to grow in these areas, but it is just really not fun. And yeah. Also, I just realized I haven't done anything today just for fun that's unrelated to work. Like I enjoyed parts of my work today, but I haven't just done anything just for fun. So I don't know. Maybe I'll go play volleyball tonight. I don't know. We'll see. Ooh, my mac and cheese. I opt for one final push, in which I study Spanish and journal despite the inward groanings of my soul. I type on my laptop a little bit more and then call it a night. I'm almost never satisfied with my day when I finish it. There's always so much more I wanted to do, if only I didn't run out of energy. Energy is so frustrating, but I remind myself of what I did accomplish, which makes me excited to pick it up tomorrow.